Hey guys, it's Beth in the Wilton Test Kitchen, and I am very excited to share with you one of my very favorite fall recipes. And it's got nothing to do with apples, because once apple season starts here in Chicago, we have to eat them for like 7 or 8 months before the ground thaws. So yeah, apples are great and all, but they are not a part of my favorite fall recipe. Today we're talking butterscotch. I think butterscotch is severely underused. You see a lot of caramel, we see a lot of pumpkin, those darn apples that are for forever. Let's do butterscotch cake today. So today I am going to make my cake in my 6-inch round Easy Layers pan set to create a very tall, very ooey gooey butterscotch cake. Going to start out as always by preheating my oven to 325 degrees for this one and greasing my pans with my Bake Easy. In my bowl I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of salt. Just want to stir them to combine them all together so that they're evenly distributed, and set that aside. In my mixing bowl, I'm going to add 1.5 sticks of room temperature butter, and I'm adding 1 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. Brown sugar is what gives butterscotch its signature flavor, so that's why we're using brown in this recipe. Cream these together on low speed until they are nice and light and fluffy. When it's nice and combined, you're going to add your eggs one at a time to the bowl. Add your vanilla extract straight into the bowl. Now we're going to add our flour mixture and our milk in alternating additions. So that means we're going to add 1/3 of our flour, 1/2 of our milk, another 1/3 of our flour, the other 1/2 of our milk, and the final 1/3 of the flour. It's easier to just show you. So now you just want to divide your delicious cake batter evenly into your 5 pans. You can eyeball this, there's no need to measure exactly. Just make sure they're about the same amounts of batter so that each layer bakes up to be the same height. And using this pan set actually really helps with that a lot. You won't have to crown them as much, you don't lose as much cake, and it's much, much easier to create really thin layers than it would be if you were trying to tort a thicker piece of cake. And then just go ahead and smooth out the tops. Get the batter all the way to the edges of the pan. You just pop these in the oven. They bake for 19 to 22 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out nice and clean. And in the meantime, while they bake, we can get to work on our butterscotch ganache. So you've heard of chocolate ganache, but now we're going to do butterscotch ganache, which is really going to make this cake super over the top and luscious. I'm starting with an entire bag, 11 ounces, of butterscotch chips. And to that I'm going to add some heavy cream, because that's how you make a ganache. And I'm also going to add a little bit of salt, because salt helps to balance out sweet flavors, so we have a lot of really sweet things going on here. So that's going to help to just dial it back a notch. Just give it a little bit of a stir. And I'm going to put this in the microwave at 50% power for about a minute. Then I'm going to stir it and continue to cook it at 50% power until it's nice and smooth. Once your chips get pretty much well melted, you'll be able to start to emulsify the cream and the chips together. You can see them starting to come together as you agitate it. There we go, and it starts to get really creamy and really shiny. And then when it's all nice and combined, oh my gosh, really, really yummy. We're just gonna set it aside to cool off a little bit. We're going to add part of this right into our icing to give it butterscotch flavor, and we're going to drizzle the rest of it all over the top of the cake. Now for our icing. Into my mixing bowl I'm going to put 2 sticks of softened butter and 1/2 cup of solid vegetable shortening. Cream these together on low speed until they are smooth and creamy. Now we're going to add our confectioner's sugar about 1 cup at a time, and I have 3 cups total. Just want to do this a little bit slow so that it doesn't come back up at you in a billow in a cloud. Remember, low speed. Oh my God. Sorry. Did I get your camera? No. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I'm sorry. So I've separated out 2/3 of a cup of my butterscotch ganache, and I'm going to add that into my icing for my butterscotch flavor. So check out the color we got from our butterscotch. Natural coloring. I'm just going to measure out about 1 3/4 cups of this icing that I'm going to reserve for the outside of the cake. looks good. And to the remainder in the bowl, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of mini chocolate chips. I like this because it's a little textural difference. It's a little bit of a flavor difference. And who doesn't love mini chocolate chips? They're just fun. So just stir those in. This will go inside as the filling of the cake. Now that our cakes are cool, we can cut the crowns off and we can start to assemble this thing. Before assembling, we need to cut the crowns off of each of our cake layers so that we can stack it nice and tall and it'll be really sturdy. I've already done it with 4 of them, but I want to show you how simple it is to do with my last layer. You just use a serrated knife and gently glide right through the center of the cake. Be very careful. And just take off the very topmost part so that you're left with a straight edge. It's that simple to do. Now to fill. We're going to use the icing that we made with the chocolate chips in it to fill our cake. So just give it a good dollop, and as you're looking at this, remember you're going to have to fill 4 times. 1, 2, you have quadrants, 4. One quadrant goes down, next quadrant for the next layer, and so on. It's kind of a good way to eyeball things. I almost made a critical mistake. Oops, I do this all the time and I'm not sure why. You need to put something underneath this cake so that you can move it when it's done. I'm actually going to build mine right on my cake stand, like so. So you just want to center your layer. You could obviously do this just on a plate on your turntable or on a cake board as well, but I actually am going to build right onto my beautiful serving platter so that I have this gorgeous cake pedestal right underneath. So now I've got my chocolate chip icing. Just want to smooth it all the way to the edges. And repeat. I'm going to put my cake layer facing the cut side down so that I have a nice clean layer to work with on top. Drag up less crumbs that way. And my last layer. So my top layer is on. Let's give the top and the sides a great coating of icing with the stuff that doesn't have the chocolate chips in it. So you can see as I'm icing that I am not doing a perfect job, and that's okay because we're going to pour our ganache over the cake anyways. So you want it to be relatively straight, but don't worry about getting it perfectly smooth. It doesn't matter. And actually, sometimes it looks more yummy if it's not. Once you have a good coating of icing on the cake, put it in the refrigerator until the icing gets nice and firm. That'll take just a few minutes, maybe 5, 10, 15, but you're going to want it to be really firm because when you pour the ganache over, that'll be warm and we don't want it to melt. So our cake has been chilled in the refrigerator. It's nice and cold. Now is the time to finish it off. If your ganache is set up so much that it's not pourable anymore, put it back in the microwave for just a few seconds at 50% power and then give it a stir. It'll loosen right back up. I've done that already. So now we're just going to pour it over and let it drip all down the sides of our cake. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Give it a little bit of help over the sides of your cake with your spatula so that you get nice, gorgeous drips all the way around the cake. Oh, it's going to be so, so yummy. Oh, I love the way this cake looks. And then to finish it off and to show a little bit of a flavor cue as to what's inside, I will give a little bit more of a sprinkle all over with my mini chocolate chips. So there you have it, one of my very favorite fall baking recipes. And you can get the whole recipe, just click there. And please let me know what your favorite fall baking recipes are. Sharing is the best part. Leave me a comment below. I'm Beth and I'll see you next time.